alive again. Welcome to another show. This is The Argument. Today's show, we are going to dive deep in again. 6 months in for my man Trump. And then Diddy case, man, we about to unpack some stuff. We want to know what you guys think. We gonna get into it tonight. This is The Argument. I am your boy. Let's get into the show. Yo. Hey, welcome to another episode, yo. This is The Argument where two or more views can collide with that impact, yo. You can agree to disagree, you can be educated, or you can take the third option. Just know everything you do have consequence. Yo, we about to get into some stuff. I know you guys are saying for the last few weeks we've been on P. Diddy and Trump, but hey, that is the going rate right now. That's what everything is about. Not only that we're going to talk about Mr. Trump tonight, we plan to get two of his deeply supporters to join us tonight. We'll see about the 9 o'clock hour. We'll see if that happened. Boy, but we about to dig into it. Man, let's talk about P. Diddy. But before that, as always, we got to bring in the people of the show all night and all day. It's your man, Big J.
And I'm your man. Yeah, homie. Never leave you lonely. Mark Fresh.
And I am dirty, doggish, delicious, dankalankish,
Whoa.
dirty,
Whoa.
stinking, trifling, diva.
Man, all that? She's been adding stuff.
I just added all that. Well, considering that my background is all messed up and all this crazy stuff, so I had to add on extraness and just be all extra.
Yeah, people, I'm gonna apologize tonight right off the bat because we having some technical difficulty on the Dirty Diva. Everything she does is very dirty. Even now, her coming through the screen is kind of dirty-ish. But we still gonna roll.
Dirty.
The show must roll, right? How is everyone? How's everybody doing this fine hump day?
I am lovely. I am happy. And I am fortunate.
Wow.
So
I love that.
Hey, world, you just got to appreciate what you have. Be thankful for what you've been blessed with. And always love others. Yeah, man, Mark Fresh.
You supposed to curse. We could be the cussing preacher tonight.
You might hear from a cussing preacher. Boy, the church done changed. The church done changed.
Let the church.
We got alleged men of God talking about things they like to do in the privacy of their own bedroom.
I mean,
what?
No, they talking about they're not talking about privacy things they like to do in a bedroom. They just dirty, dog-alicious. Lay down with dogs coming up with flea nastiness.
Hey, but Diva, that's your area though. That's what you down with.
Oh, I sure am down with the low down, with the stinking low down.
How you doing, Diva?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great considering, so I'm not gonna complain. But I will tell you that I had to witness a plasma, what is it called? Blood transfusion for the first time, like ever.
What?
Yes. So I've been dealing with this since Saturday. And I'm telling you, Monday was the day. And I like to say to the world, to anybody who is out there who has ever thought that, and I can't change anybody's religious beliefs or anything like that, but anybody who does not want to give plasma or blood, it literally will save a life. Like, I mean, like, we didn't know that, but to witness it and to know it, it's just a completely different story. Because when your blood level is at a 2 and you're almost out, it's just I witnessed it. It was just different. So I'm very thankful for anybody who donates blood, anybody who donates plasma, because you saved a life. I don't know who it was. If you donated, Mark Fresh, it could have been your blood that saved the life. It could have been your blood, Jay. It could have been. Couldn't have been mine, unfortunately, because I can't donate, but receiving a blood transfusion and plasma saves a life. So I'm grateful.
Shout out to all the donators.
Yes.
Give blood. Definitely. Because
I think that's
you done made sure one of our own was good.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was funny because I think I got to make sure that I start back. I used to do it regular, man. But it's funny because in college, I used to do it constantly. And the reason I used to do it is because at that time you used to get, no, I didn't get paid for it. You used to get like your free blood test. So they can tell you if you have any kind of disease or HIV and so forth. So during college, you wanted to get that joker, right? So I used to do it. And man, on a regular, that was the hardest test I ever done, bro. Because you sitting there thinking like, dang, what if something come back? But at the end of the day, it never come back. It never come back with anything. But the good thing is it worked for somebody. It probably saved a couple of lives. So what I'm saying, I said all that to say, I think I need to start back. I need to start letting that thing back into the hospital, giving it some blood. I think
and there's something that you can do, and I just learned this because I had to go through it, but you are able, if you are a believer who does not believe in blood transfusions and transfer of plasma, and you are a match to someone in your family, or it can be a friend. Like if you and I, Mark, I'm just making something up, if we share the same blood and you didn't want to get blood from somewhere else, we can actually have it sacredly stored with the Red Cross. It's a process that you have to do. But God forbid, if you need a blood transfusion and you can say, I can say, if it was me, I can say, well, I want Mark Fresh blood. And day of birth, you just get that information, and the Red Cross is to get it, and wherever you are, they're to emergency fly it in, and you can get it that way.
Wow.
So there's just so many ways. I just learned so much. I had no idea prior to this. If this would not have happened to me personally, I would have never known any of this. But needless to say, hey,
all is great. All is well. Thank
great.
the Lord. Thank the Lord. Thank the Lord. That's what we want. Yep. I just heard a story today where a young lady, she had sickle cell, and sickle cell comes and goes, and that joker can come with a fire, with a thunder, with a lightning, and in 72 hours you could be gone. Friday she talked to my cousin, and Monday she's gone. When that joker comes, it just
Are you saying that she's gone, like deceased?
Yeah, she passed. They just having a conversation Friday, and then by Monday she's out.
Wow.
Yep. Too. That's it. It's real crazy, man. That's the point. Is that never know. There's things we can do to save a life, man.
Yes.
And because sometimes it's just out there, man. But again, I'm sorry, we don't want to bring the show down.
Yeah. Let's get the spirits up, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. We healthy. We here. We blessed. Let's cook. We got a lot of things to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get it on and popping.
Raise the roof.
should we just get right into this?
I think we need to get into everything that's dirty.
Should we just get right into this thing? You know what I'm saying?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Should we just get right into that? You know
Absolutely.
What I'm
saying? Yeah. Do it.
Do it, Mr. All About the Benjamins.
Do it.
You know what I mean? Should we just get right into them? So, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we're gonna talk about this Diddy thing a little bit.
This dirty Diddy.
You know what I'm saying? And obviously there's a lot going on with the trial, a lot of different interesting aspects of it, depending on which outlet you're looking at, or depending on what part of the Diddy trial you've experienced. I'll just say this first and foremost, that no matter what, obviously we're going to have some conversation on the show, so obviously no one on this show ever wishes anybody to go through any type of abuse. So I just need to put that out there loud and clear before we, get into our conversation, and our sort of evaluation of this trial, because that's what we're looking at. We're talking about the Diddy trial.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening versus with the prosecution, how well the prosecution may be proving their case, and our opinion on where we see it going, and where we see this trial and the direction we see it going in. This is not a thing where any of us, wish him to be incarcerated or wish him to be free. That's not really what this is about. No. It's more just about how we see this trial, because this trial is very impactful to, pop culture, and really pop culture over the last easily 30 years.
Yeah.
This individual has contributed to hip hop music and R&B music in particular, fashion, and all these entertainment and all these things. So he's been a big part of my life. I've been, a fan of his, from a music perspective since high school. What I'm saying, when he was down with, his getting his start with Uptown Records and groups like, Jodeci and Mary J. Blige. So for me, this P. Diddy is really impactful and influential in my life from a music perspective, because he put out a lot of music that I loved, music that I listened to for hours, especially, if you're talking about Biggie. There aren't too many Biggie songs that can come on at any point, and I know every lyric, and I can rap every lyric with this dude, and I would say in about 80 to 90% of his songs. So I listened to a lot of Biggie, I listened to a lot of Jodeci. Diary of a Mad Band was, one of my all-time favorite albums. You know what I mean? So, from that perspective, you can say what you want. I know he's done different things to artists and all these different things, but these are artists. This is great talent that he helped bring to the forefront on some level. And that's just true. You know what I'm saying? And that's just true. Yeah. So, and again, we don't always know how, our favorite actors, musicians, we don't know their private life. We just know them for what we know them for. And that's it. What they do in their private life, ultimately, in my opinion, is their business. You know what I'm saying? Because I appreciate them for the music. The same way if I just went somewhere and a band that no one's ever heard of plays and they rock it all night, and I'm rocking with them all night, and it's a dope show. But at the end, I go home, and that was a dope show, and it was a great musicians, but I don't care what they go home to do. I care about what I go home to do. So that's it. So we're going to get into this Diddy thing. You know what I'm saying?
You said something that really make me remember me. You talk about the things that P. Diddy did over a 3-decade span, and the introductions of real popular artists and the music and the genres and all that stuff. And I remember I came to this country and I heard about, hip hop. I would listen to some of them. Like one of them I would listen to is like KRS-One. But at that time, KRS-One used to come across just like a bootleg foreigner, right? Because how he used to rap and the things he used to talk about. So it never really resonated with me. I started getting into rap and I started listening to rap when Biggie came out. That's why there's nobody can tell me anything about Biggie when it comes to lyric. I don't care who or what you heard, that's fine with you, but I believe the best I've heard was Biggie, right? And that's because of Puff Daddy. That's because at that time Puff Daddy bring him out, and I got into rap. Now I'm big on it. I love listening to rap. I love good artists. The DMXs, the Eminems. Those are my guys. Now I still play them every now and then. You know what I mean? So it is a far fetched from what happened then to what we are listening and talking about right now today. So Fresh, I want you to remind the people, if you don't mind, what is it that he's facing? What are the charges now that he's there? We just want to remind them. I'm pretty sure a lot of people know, but remind them, what is that they're bringing this man up on charges for?
Yeah, so Diddy, the biggest charge that he's facing is a racketeering charge, in which they're attempting to group together some predicate charges, predicate felonies. One of them being arson. Another one, I guess sex trafficking is rolled up into that, but it's also kind of a separate charge. But there's some predicate charges that they're trying to roll up in to charge him with the racketeering. Then they have a separate sex trafficking charge. And then he's also charged with soliciting prostitutes. So these are the charges. And really what they're ultimately trying to say is that Diddy created a criminal enterprise to sex traffic women, on some level, and men for that matter, because he's saying, okay, this prostitute who lives in Atlanta, I'm going to fly you to New York for sex. So under the laws, you could prove that if you could prove that just based off of the act, if you can convince a jury that all of this is true, right? So if you can convince a jury that it was a criminal enterprise, and he created this criminal enterprise for the sole purpose of this, then you can find it guilty. And then obviously, if you can prove that there was money exchanged for sex with any individual, then that's the prostitution. And then obviously the sex trafficking is, moving people. So if he took Cassie or Jane Doe from New York to California for the purposes of sex, then they can say he sex trafficked them, right? And then from the defense's perspective, obviously they are attempting to prove that no, all these people were willing participants. This was not something that was a criminal enterprise. These people all wanted this. They wanted to do this. They were interested in doing this. They did it on their own. They did it without fighting. They had an understanding. They had an agreement with, Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Puffy. They had an agreement with him, and everybody understood that, we all like having sex. We all like taking drugs. And we all just like to have a good time doing this thing. So let's go. So that's obviously what the defense is trying to say, that this was not a criminal enterprise. Yeah, all these things happen. Yes, there was men that he watched Cassie have sex with. Absolutely, he did it. So the defense is willing to admit that, because they're basically just saying, look, the guy's just kind of freaky. He likes, different kind of sex, but he dates people who are into this thing. So that's the summation of what's going on.
That's good. I mean, and just the key points, like Mark says, it's criminal enterprise exists. Was it there? That's what the prosecution must prove, right? For this thing to happen, a criminal enterprise exists. Multiple predicates act. Victim were coerced. Cross-state transportation. Those are the things that they must prove to make this thing work out. Now, tonight we're going to talk about those things. And as far as we know, there's a lot of people come forward, and there's a lot of testimony so far on one side, right? And what we want to look at, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, we want to know, are the prosecution close to getting to what they must prove? Or, what we hear so far, is it really heading down that road, or they start to prove what is it that they must prove to get this man um the charges that they brought up against him, to get him convicted on those charges, right? So I don't know. Diva, what, what do you say about all this that's going on right now? What do you have to bring in here to us? Talk to us, Diva. Dirty.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's just I don't know. It's just like it keeps getting it just keeps I don't want to say weird. It just keeps getting almost unpredictable with just different things that is being said. So I watched everybody knows about Cameron's podcast that he has, and he actually interviewed the Punisher. And one of the things that the Punisher was saying was that he didn't even understand why the prosecutors called on him, because he was more so his testimony. It benefited Diddy. It didn't benefit the prosecutors. So he even said it. He was like, I don't know why they called me. He was like, because I didn't even know who it was until after. He said he knew it had to be something because of this particular presidential suite that he was in. And it wasn't the Trump Towers. So I'm going to completely misquote it because I can't remember the hotel that he said. But I will say that he stated that he went to Google the price, and he said it was $30,000 a night. And he was like, yo, who is this dude? Because he said that Diddy had nothing on but a hijab covering. And a hijab is, a Muslim covering, face covering of a woman that showed nothing but his eyes with nothing else on. That was it. And so Cameron asked him, he was like, dude, you didn't know this was, he was like, no. He said he didn't even know Cassie was Cassie. He said he honestly thought Cassie was, I don't know why. He said he thought Cassie was Megan Good. And he said that he realized when he looked up Megan Good, he says Megan Good is thicker. So it couldn't be her. I was like, whatever. But anyways, so he said a year had passed before he had even knew that was Diddy. And he figured it was Diddy only because he was in his part of the suite. And the way the suite was built, it was really big, he said. So he had his little wing. And so he went in the living room of where he stayed and turned on the TV. And the TV says, welcome, Mr. Sean Combs. And that's how he found out it was Diddy.
But based on that, though, right, real quick, fresh, based on what she just described with that one witness, right? Remember, we looking at criminal enterprise. Was it an existent? Was there acts? Because he said he did multiple of those acts, right? There were drugs involved, right? So these are the things they wanted to.
Meaning who? The Punisher you talking about?
Yeah, well, that's just the Punisher that she mentioned earlier, right? There were drugs involved, and there was basically directions coming from P. Diddy, right? So that could also lead towards the coercion, right? The drugs, the coercion, or the victim, and so forth. Because again, she came out now as the victim in this whole ordeal.
Are you saying like in that freak off where he's saying to Cassie, okay, all right, y'all do it doggy style, or
that's not
give him a blowjob? Are you saying that that's coercion?
No, it could be the fact that drugs was involved. It could be a hint of coercion. He was directing now to the level, right? To the level that he was doing the direction, because she said, no, you can't talk to him. You don't say anything to me. Don't talk to me, right? And
dude, that's what saying that to the Punisher.
The Punisher was talking to Cassie, and Cassie said, no, you can't talk to me. You can't talk to me. Not when he's not in the room. You cannot talk to me, right? So, I mean, there's so many directions this thing can go to, right? But I'm just looking at it just like we can look and say, well, the defense is going to eat that up. But what I believe, me on my end, I'm looking at, there's a lot of directions going on there. So now they're trying to establish why these people are following this direction. What is causing them to follow directions, right? So these could be where coercion come in. There was drugs
I don't
involved.
think that's at all where
I don't think so either, because the reason, and that's why I brought this up. Correct. That's why I brought this up after I watched the.
Not with that. That's what I'm saying.
No, it's not just that alone, though.
I don't think it's that at all.
It's not with that alone. It has to be multiple predicate acts. That's just one part of it.
But I don't think that's an act that they're considering as coercion. Him directing sex scenes.
And the reason why,
okay.
I mean, maybe, but I don't see that.
So
I
here's the victim was
saying that
coercion is including things like sometimes violence, drugs, threatening, and blackmailing. Right? So they're getting this story out.
Yeah, but that's more like if he's saying to Cassie, okay, if you don't do this, I'm gonna put your sex tape out. I got you on tape. That would be coercion, but not if they're in a freak off and he's like, oh, have sex like this, do this. That's not coercion.
Well,
let me ask you. Three of them in that moment are engaged in that act.
Let me ask you this. So I have a conversation with you because this is not the first time you're doing it. I had you do it with other people, and you saw the volume I can take it to. But I said to you here, when this guy come, this is what I want. This is what I want, because you know what happens later.
That's definitely not coercion. I don't think so, because I could be. Let's just use. We can use me as an example. I could tell you that my husband, because that's what the Punisher said, that he thought it was a husband. My husband is not going to do, he's not going to do anything. That's just instructions that I'm telling you that my husband said. I don't think that that's coercion either. And that's why I brought this particular, say that again.
Let me ask this. I know you're saying you guys are both disagree that there's no form of coercion could happen there, right?
No, they could, because it's like, it was almost, and even the Punisher said, it was almost like he was directing a film. It was like they was in a movie, because he said everything was staged, and it's just, he was.
Yeah, but I get it though, right? I get it. So why are they saying that these things were done in such a manner that they had to do it or they would face consequences? Why are they saying that if they didn't do this, this is what happened? Why, when she tried to leave, he grabbed her and bring her back in and violence get involved? If it wasn't coercion, why would he tell them, oh, you better, if you don't get me this money, or you don't do this or whatever, I'm gonna leak this sex tape? If that's not coercion, what else would be coercion? Just because
maybe
that act,
other people, but not with this particular.
No, but but you don't. That's the thing. The behavior that she's doing, obviously, we don't know what he said to her before this guy get there. But obviously, we seen the end results. That's not something they want to continue doing. This is not something they were happy with, right? There's a lot of drugs involved in it to keep themselves numb to do what they're doing, right? Have people doing all these things to them. Like, come on. Somebody in the right mind has to know this is not cool. So how does it get to the point where there's a lot of bruises, there's a lot of beating, there's a lot of different things if it wasn't coercion? Just because in that case,
you're that's not, like, again, what we're saying is, you brought up the fact that when Diddy is sitting in the chair, they're having sex and he's directing different acts. You are saying that is coercion. The only thing we're saying is, and what specifically I'm saying is, I don't believe that's part of the prosecution's case heavily on the coercion aspect, because I think you can easily poke holes that all that stuff that was going on was willing behavior. Everybody was into it. Everybody was game. Everybody was down.
Said it.
Now, what it is that from a coercion standpoint, yes.
Okay.
Yes, she initiated freak offs. Like, she oftentimes would text Diddy and say, hey, I'm ready for the next. I can't wait till we do the next freak off.
Okay. So, yeah, but why? Okay, so so there's a reason why she's probably been doing that.
But do you know why she said? Did you hear one of the reasons why? She said one of the reasons why that she was saying is because she didn't want him to be having sex with anybody else. She didn't want. That's what they said. I'm not.
No, they also said that it's because that's something he wanted, and that's something they want to please him, and that's something they want to do because of whatever consequence will come after it. Because obviously, there's evidence of consequences if they don't do what he want them to do.
Yeah, but it's not like we don't understand that point. We get that. What we're saying is, in this particular situation with this behavior, that I don't believe that that's what the prosecution is using for coercion. I think what they're using for coercion is more specific to him. You know, the time where he made the girl go to the house and say, "Hey, I'm gonna do this to you. I'm gonna do that to you if you don't go." That's an act of coercion.
Okay, let me ask you.
If he simply says, if he simply says to Cassie or to Jane, "Hey, look, if you don't have the freak off tonight, then I'm gonna stop paying your rent, or you're not gonna be able to do this movie." But I don't think what they're saying is because he is sitting there observing a sex act and saying, "Hey, give him a blowjob or let him do it doggy style." I don't think that's what they're saying.
All right, so let me just correct
that's the point that I'm making.
Okay, I know you jump on the coercion. So my initial statement was like, okay, so this is what they're trying to establish here. The prosecution, they're trying to establish coercion with the direction that he's been given. And the way they're doing that is starting with it subtle. This is what I'm saying now. They're starting with it subtle to establish a baseline as to, okay, she's been doing these things, but there has to be a reason why she's doing it, why she's following direction so wholeheartedly and so into it, why she have to be acting into it, right? Yeah, he could say, well, she looks real. She could look well. She looked well into it. She's all in. Oh, yeah, she called. Nobody knows the reason why she was doing it. Obviously, we see now. Because if she don't do it,
tell a jury at the same time, you could try to say that. Again, then why is she saying, "Hey, I want this. I can't wait to do this. I'm so excited to do this."
Because there's consequence if I don't do it.
No. There is no consequence at this point.
Well, obviously there was.
No, what was it?
Not do it.
No, this is this is when their relationship started.
No, don't worry about that.
We testified to this. We already testified to this, bro. When the relationship started, yeah, I was into it. I was good.
Oh yeah, because why? He's doing this to me, he's doing that to me, and then there's, if this don't happen, this
at this point she doesn't have to lie and say that.
No,
she doesn't have to say that. She can just come out and say in the beginning,
in the beginning of their relationship, she was not saying that. That was not what she was explaining.
Okay,
that was as the relationship went on. She also said both her, Jane, and Cassie both talked about how over time what got frustrating is they couldn't get alone time with Diddy. It started to become more about just being freaky, and so it wasn't a real relationship. That is not coercion. None of that is coercion. That's just a bad boyfriend.
But none of that was coerced.
She said that was the only time she can have a long time.
You said no time at all they were coerced.
She said it. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
No,
it's not my opinion.
No.
Yes.
So why she said they did it because of what happens? She also said they had to do it.
Bro, I'm trying to explain this to you. As the relationship went on, that's when she said she started to feel that way.
So my question to you is,
what they both said they felt first was just the fact that he wasn't loving. He wasn't trying to just be about me. And then as it went on, I started to feel like, even though when I stayed, after early on, I felt funny about it. Then I started to feel like it was my job and I had to do it because I wanted my rent paid, because I wanted to have this or that, music career, movies, all these different things. So that's why
the whole entire relationship with these girls, they were never coerced to do anything.
No, and that's definitely not what
I'm asking a question. I'm asking a damn
silly question because I said multiple times in the beginning of the relationship, and now you're trying to go to
no. We don't relationship. I said also
that's why that question makes no sense.
No, it does make sense. You just don't want to answer it because
why would I need to answer it? Because I've already said that.
Everything starts from a baseline. It starts from a baseline, and that's what the prosecutors are trying to prove. It started like this,
What's
but there was
based on?
coercion in multiple areas.
Right. And I just simply said in the beginning,
I
they
don't
were
care about
all
the beginning.
about it.
I don't care
And
about
I
the beginning.
also,
The end
hold on,
result
let me
doesn't matter.
finish. And then I also acknowledged they began to claim that they were being coerced as the relationship went on. But they also
Then
said
the answer should
both
have
of
been
them,
yes. When I asked the question, you should just be yes. It was. When
what
I
should be
asked the
yes, it
question,
was.
when I asked the question in
No,
the entire
no,
relationship,
because,
was there
Let me
coercion?
explain to you. No. Let me explain to you my whole point of what I was saying.
I
Because
heard
it
you.
all
Just
started
ask the
from,
question, yes or no.
no. But our first debate and disagreement was about you saying it's coercion when he does sex acts, or when he tells her to do this and do that in sex. And I was just simply saying, I don't think they're going to use that.
What the prosecution is trying to
And
establish.
you're the one who went to, oh, so it was never coercion. No, I'm not saying that. But part of the reason why they wouldn't want to use Diddy and Diddy, Cassie, or Jane and a prostitute, where he's just simply directing that sex scene or directing that sex episode, is simply because you can also make it look like all of these people were willing participants.
They're going to use that,
There's
though.
so much other behavior
but
that
they're using it
through coercion. So that's the point that I'm making.
But they're using it. They're using it because they want to establish a foundation of where that all started and where it headed. They're using it. They're going to bring that. That is going to help them with proving that coercion was involved in it.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll agree to disagree on that fact then. We'll agree to disagree on that. But one thing too, that with this trial that's very interesting is, when you start to talk about different things like credibility. So recently, I think it was this week, the defense attempted to get a mistrial because they felt as though one of the witnesses, Bono, perjured herself by saying he dangled her over the balcony. So that's another interesting aspect when you think about what these people are saying. And then two, what they're also saying is the prosecution, the government, should have acknowledged the fact that there was an actual receipt that proved he wasn't even in the state. He was in New York. She was saying this happened in LA. And what what they're basically claiming is this is an example of how the prosecution is willingly using false information to try to persuade or move the jury in some way, shape, or form. You know what I'm saying? So that's what makes this interesting too, because obviously the jurors are aware of that. And at some point, the defense is going to be able to explain to them that law, what should have happened, how it should have went, and how the prosecution / the government should have addressed it, which obviously is going to make a huge impact on this case, because then it starts to say, okay, well, is the prosecution in all of this really being forthcoming with all these people? When you start to hear different things of that nature and how that can impact it. I found that to be interesting.
The prosecution are going to do a lot of things. They're going to try to prove everything that everyone said differently than what it come out to be. Now, if they have evidence proving that she made a mistake on the date, that's okay. They're going to eat that up. That's a win for them probably. But again, if I'm sitting there as a juror and she had to remember something for 10 years back or more, I could see where she can make the mistake on the date, on what happened. Now, does that discredit what really happened? I don't think so as a juror. And I don't think too many jurors going to look at it and discredit the whole entire truth because she made a mistake on the date. So, I get it. The prosecution job is to make sure they get it out, right? But using a simple date like that, who knows?
The defense's job is to get doubt.
The defender. I'm sorry. I said the prosecutors. No, my bad. The defender is to get the doubt. So they're going to poke hole at everything. We know they're going to poke hole at everything. But the good thing is there is cross. When they're done, they come back and they can correct and help her to correct what she said earlier.
Oh, of course. Everybody gets an opportunity.
Right. She did try to do it earlier, too. And they're going to make sure it hammer home that it's been a while since this incident happened. Right. So, again,
but I think what's important, what's really important about that, though, is there are cases where, the judge could have, accepted the defense's submission of, for a mistrial. So
Not
the judge could have. No. Again, I'm saying the judge could have. So just be clear on what I'm saying. Again, he could have made the decision and said, yes, based off of that, there's going to be a mistrial. He had that authority, and that is a claim where a judge could rule a mistrial. So that type of behavior by the prosecution is not something that they should do. It is something that's very risky, and it could be a tactic to sway the jury. It could be an intentional tactic to sway the jury to do something, knowing that there's a clear receipt that proves that when she's saying this happened, he wasn't even there. There's clear evidence that says that. So, again, it's not like she can't be lying. So what if she is lying? What if that didn't happen? And what if she didn't make that up?
So they also got to prove that too.
Well, but if you think about it, that's the point that I'm making. So if you think about it, if now you have this thing where it's just like, well, whoa, if she is lying, then what's this case about? Maybe this is a witch hunt. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things that one could think, which would create and establish easy, reasonable doubt to a jury, to whereas they may be like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it does sound like he did all these other nasty things.
It is a good attempt.
If they're lying, they're lying. A lie is a lie is a lie.
Right. It's a good attempt, but I mean, you can swear, like, if you put yourself in the juror's shoes, you can tell yourself that one person who made a mistake on a date, right? Or even if you get to the lie, you excuse everything else. Would you, as a juror, excuse everything else after you find out that one person came up and they lie about something? You gonna excuse the entire case? I'm just asking you a question, bro.
Would I?
Yeah. And in the right form and with common sense, would you discredit the entire case of everybody else, what they're saying, because to prove one person, one incident with that person was a lie?
No. Okay. I don't know. I mean, I maybe no. I mean, I get, because again, but think about your question. But I'm not saying that.
I didn't say you said that, bro. Stop taking it personal. I didn't say you said that.
I'm taking it personal, but I don't even understand why you asking me, like, oh, I want to know if you want to do this.
I put myself in the shoes.
Is this now to me just brings in and drops reasonable doubt. Okay. And that's it. So to me, that's something that I think, that I think about as it relates to this case. And then two, another part of that is that also hurts the credibility of Cassie, who also corroborated it and agreed. So there's different things that, these different witnesses do, and they say that easily makes them suspect. So when you think about, you're trying to prove coercion, you're trying to prove all these other different things. If you can start to prove that witnesses are lying, then I just think it's hard, because if I'm on a jury and this witness, yeah, that's suspect, they lied. First they were into it, now they this, or, well, maybe she just wanted a career. Maybe she was actually using Diddy on some level. You know what else is funny is the fact that Jane, who is testifying against Diddy, to this day, he's still paying her rent.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, does that sound like the type of person who's a racketeer? Why wouldn't you cut it off?
But that sound like a person too who
maybe you legit loved her.
Right. But does that sound like a person who will come and testify against the ill will that he did against her, even though he's paying her rent? It could go both ways. Right.
Well, that's the whole point. She's basically testifying so that he gets put away for the rest of his life. And at this point, he's still paying her rent.
Right. So it could go both ways. I mean, it could be truth to what she's saying. Dude was a horrible dude. And what he was doing is pimping her out across state. That's a whole lot of charge. But anyway, I know we could talk all day about this man, right? But we do have our guests waiting in the lobby, waiting to get on. Just let's finish up this Diddy segment, and we can shoot over to our other segment. So let's wrap it up, man. Any final thoughts, man, on this Diddy joint?
I mean, I pretty much said what I said. I mean, I think this is a roller coaster trial. I think it'll continue to go up and down. But again, I think what people got to remember is, I'm just looking at it from the perspective of whether or not I think the prosecution can prove their case, because that's what this is all about. The burden of proof is on the prosecution, not the defense. So when I speak, it's always from that perspective. To me, I just don't know if they're proving a case that is beyond a reasonable doubt, which is what the law says. So to me, it's really just that simple and cut and dry. So we'll see how it works out for Diddy, whether, he does get found guilty and he goes away for the rest of his life, or he doesn't, does a few years or does no time. Again, it just is what it is. That's his life, not mine.
Yeah. Yep. Anything, Diva? Because we're going to bring in our guest in a little bit. Anything, Diva?
Not a thing. Let's go rolling. We're going to put Diddy to rest for a little bit. We'll come back
until next week. Until next week. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as we stated in our tagline, our topics, we are talking about the Diddy case. We unpacking some things about it, but we also have one thing that is really important and pressing is the full nature of United States of America. The state that we are in right now is very much something that we need to talk and get understanding. Now, before we had a couple of supporters for the current administrator that came on, and they're, had high hopes, right? And they did promise to come back on and give us feedback as things progressed and go forward, right? So tonight we do have one of those guests sitting in the lobby, and bring him in a little bit, and another one is on their way to get in on the show. But we're gonna get excited and talk about some things that's going on. We're gonna hear from them and get educated as much as we can, because maybe they're seeing things from their side that we can't see. So I'm approaching this with an open mind, and because I do have questions, but I'm approaching this in an open mind. So in further ado, I want to introduce our guest, Mr. Lindsay. What up, bro?
What's up, man?
How you been?
Lindsay, what's good?
It's going. It's good to be here with you guys.
Yeah. Hey, I can't tell how Lindsay, you look real good, man. I know it's no Diddy stuff, you know what I mean? It's just that, bro, you look real good, man. I saw you in person and you look well, man. I love that look.
Well, I appreciate that. It was good seeing you, both you guys, recently.
Yeah, no doubt.
I know you sneak out before I can find you, man. I was like, what the heck? Where did he go? You know what I mean? But it's all right. Me, Mark, party up for you.
I saw him on the exit.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Shoot,
man.
I was gone, man. Something was wrong with me then.
Good time, man. I think I was getting some food.
Hey, Lindsay, I want to introduce you to a Dirty Diva. She's the new addition to the show. She bring all the dirt, real messy when she get ready. Right? She's having some technical difficulty, and but we good. We good with what is going on with her right now. So, Diva, say hi to Mr. Lindsay.
Hi, Lindsay. How are you? All righty. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, Lindsay's a married man too.
I'm just. What does that have to do?
I don't even know. I don't even know.
Yeah, just moving right along.
Is you, Messy, or me? It could be me.
That was Messy. I think. Yeah, we're gonna change your name to Messy JJ.
All night, all day is the same J. Hey, but anyway, Fresh.
Yeah.
We're going to get into this with Mr. Lindsay, right? I know Chris is going to come on pretty soon, but we'll get into it. And again, Lindsay, this conversation here, I really want to understand some viewpoints. I know you've been a busy guy, right? First, let me ask you, man, how much are you able to really hone in on the current climate in this country and the way the administration is going? How much you were able to gather?
Well, I think you got a president who's on a mission. So the first 100 days was like a whirlwind. So it's hard to process so many changes all happening at the same time. But I think it has to do with trust. I think if you have a certain degree of trust, you know that It'll kind of play out in the end. Sometimes an action has a instant consequence, sometimes positive, sometimes negative, and sometimes it's more like maybe like planting a plant, or the water you do now gives you some growth in a future time. That it's like having a telling your parent thank you later on because the actions of the past had a significant effect in the future.
Okay. So, quick question. So what you expect him to do when you were supporting him, is it what is happening today? Could you say that?
I think so, to a certain degree. I think that his main policies, he's on a mission to accomplish the things that he said, some of which is not happening, or he's finding that it's much more difficult or an arduous task to be able to stop a war between Ukraine and Russia. He said he'll do that the next day. That obviously none of that is coming to fruition, but he's still on that mission. He is making different attempts to communicate with both sides, and I don't think anybody else can do what he's actually doing. I think if anything, without him, he's trying to de-escalate, which is interesting because often Trump is accused of being the one who escalates things. And in other areas, maybe that is the case, but in this particular case, he is trying to do that. I think when it comes to border security, shutting it down by 95% in a few days. I think there's a lot of, and for me, it's mainly economic. I think economics has a high degree of complexity. Sometimes we have this like singular thing. Well, if tax breaks, and then you're going to have all, but meanwhile, there's a monstrous chain reaction when it comes to the complexity of economics. And one thing affects another, and you kind of don't know how it plays out until like a couple of years from now. So if you set in motion tax breaks for the wealthy, well, for certain corporations, well, how that tax break trickles down into the economic, landscape takes time. And so we may not see it for a few years. So it's hard to sometimes, gauge a certain person's actions when we don't know what the outcome is just yet.
So tell me one of the things that you're talking about that he actually, and I'll let my guys jump in there in the next question, but tell me one of the things that, you said that he promised and he worked on, and it's working today. Give me one of his mandate that he came into office and said, well, I'm going to do this and it's going to work today. Are we going to get it work? We know you said, well, the war, he can't get that done, right? So the taxes, the cuts and all that stuff, that's not done yet. But what is something that you can say to us here and the audience that since he got into office, he promised to do it and it's being done the way he said it was going to be done?
I mean, border security is probably the number one. I think that was pretty decisive, effective, and decreased the amount of flow. I mean, I think the number was somewhere around, they had at some point a cutoff, at least Obama had a cutoff of 2,000 per day. I mean, I don't think that's reasonable or sustainable. There's no country that would be allowable. And not taking offense to anyone who crosses the border per se, if there is a particular marginalized group, but that's not a sustainable where millions of people who are undocumented, unvetted population entering any country wouldn't be acceptable. It's not acceptable practice. I don't know why that was okay, but that's one thing that that's one of the many items that his campaign ran on, and it was effectively shut down relatively immediately.
Is that the only one? Because they've been doing that for administration after administration, way before Trump got in there. So is that the only thing you think that worked right away?
I think that was a prominent one. I think that I don't think no one even close to be able to. And what he did was he didn't put a wall up. Billions of dollars to put a wall up. He didn't even do that. He had a way to use words and persuasion to make the country contribute. Why do we have to do 90% of the effort, 90% of the funds? We have to put so much more work when the country who's allowing their citizens to enter could actually do their part. And that's what he did. I think that's an incredible ability. I don't think there's a lot of people who they don't operate on that efficacy. They're much more bureaucratic, and they're not hard. They're not America First agendas. I think that I think there's different philosophies, different frameworks, different ways to look at it. But America First is a different way to think that, you know, we're going to do what's in the best interest of us at this particular time, because we put other people first in a lot of different situations, and we're in $4 trillion of debt additionally every year, and that's not sustainable. We can't do that. You know, the country that's like reminds me of like a younger person who gets a credit card for the first time and is spending beyond their ability, without their means. I mean, it just seems like not a sustainable practice. At some point, you have to reel it back in, and that's what we're doing right now. We actually have fiscal conservativeness that wants to take a look at our spending and our expenses, no different from any family who would do the exact same thing at some point in time when spending gets out of control.
Okay, Fresh, go ahead.
Did you see the video clips or on TV when the South African president went to the White House? President Ramaphosa, I believe is.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you see that?
I did.
When you saw that, you know, as a person who supports, for the most part, I guess what the Trump administration does. What did that say to you about the information that the Trump administration receives regarding, foreign affairs and things that are happening outside of the U.S.? Did that, make you feel that they get and they put out accurate information, or did that make you question the information that they receive and that they put out? That whole thing where they're trying to accuse him of, the genocide, and they're holding up pictures, and it's a picture of the Congo, which had nothing to do with, South Africa. So that's why I'm just curious, unless you disagree with that as fact.
Well, I think that was it was very interesting to me that as he was putting those pictures up, one of the statements made by the president was that he's not familiar with any of the facts. So either one, it's a cop out. It's an easier thing to be able to say, hey, I don't even know what those pictures are. I've never seen some of them. Maybe some of those pictures were inaccurate. But
just to clarify for the audience and myself, did he say that at that meeting when he was accusing him, or did he say it after the fact? I just want to make sure.
Which president are you talking about, though?
In the video, he made a statement that he wasn't aware that this I don't know the actual statement, but he wasn't aware of that these farmers were being treated in a particular way that they were, stating. It seemed to me that there was a little bit of a disconnect between what Trump was representing and what he was either familiar with or aware of, or obviously there's a certain degree of genocide going on. I don't know is it a severe degree? Is it mild in nature? I'm not exactly sure. I'm not necessarily in possession of the facts. I'm not there. But I do know what I see is our president, who's willing to, there's a certain degree of willingness to a particularly persecuted immigration group, and allowed a certain exception to be able to come in. I mean, I think we've had a myriad of populations. We've had enter Somalian refugees, and we've had Syrian refugees. And honestly, there's most of the refugees, many that have been displaced in different countries, have been Western countries, Germany, France, who've allowed a lot of these refugees in. Oftentimes,
no, we get it, and I understand the refugee point. I guess my question really wasn't so much looking for an explanation of, the different types of refugees that come in and out of the country. I guess I was just really curious about, when he's making those claims, and he is treating a potential ally, in a way that I felt was disrespectful. I don't know if you thought he was doing a respectful thing. And, you know, again, I think we can agree that his information was incorrect. Whether he knew or didn't know, he was still very accusatory. Unless you're saying that there's genocide happening right now in South Africa.
I don't know if it's necessarily, I mean, we'd consider. So there's no farmers being persecuted?
No. Well, you just made the statement that some level of genocide is happening, right?
Right.
Okay. So I'm just saying, do you think that genocide is occurring in South Africa?
I mean,
so I do not. Just to be clear, I don't believe genocide is happening in South Africa.
Well, there's no evidence of it.
First of all,
say it again.
What do you mean by genocide?
What did you mean by genocide? What do you mean? Like, I don't understand.
When there's a particular group of people that's identified, marginalized, and there's an attempt to exterminate. I think there's an intentionality that a particular group, maybe they were oppressing you all this time. Well, now it's time to get back. It doesn't mean that you were successful, but there's an attempt, a path that's attempting to take a particular group and one part persecute them, and then it leads to death. That's really just a kind of genocidal, many countries have genocide on the agenda. And it looks like, it looks different ways because some economies are very developed and some are they're not. And they're,
Do you think America has genocide on the agenda?
I do not. No. There's no doubt.
All right, let me ask you this. Do you think it ever had genocide on the agenda?
Ever had genocide?
Based off of your definition that you just gave.
I don't doubt the Native Americans. We had, we wouldn't consider them necessarily us. We're not necessarily exterminating our own people per se, but I think that there was if you look at Andrew Jackson was absolutely brutal to the Native Americans. That was the Trail of Tears, and we did some horrible things, even when it comes to biological warfare. We did some terrible things, smallpox. I don't doubt we in our history have done some terrible things. I mean, slavery in general was not necessarily genocidal, but it's probably one of the worst things we've.
What? Wait, I gotta stop you. You saying slavery wasn't?
I mean, you think we were intentionally exterminating our historically? We
the ones you can't use, yes.
Yeah, but that's not genocide. That's a category. I don't doubt. I'm not saying that that's not.
Okay.
I'm not validating or condoning the worst atrocities of human history just by saying that. That's not necessarily the label I would use. But I don't necessarily think it was genocide per se. I think what we did was absolutely wrong. And it went on for a long period of time. I don't doubt historically in times past, centuries in the past, slavery was commonplace, in certain, I don't doubt in certain countries probably still is the case.
I mean, yeah, we know slavery was everywhere. So we get all that.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just very interesting because, when I think about, President Trump and the way he's sort of going about his business, it feels like he wants to create an environment where he has ultimate power. Do you believe that statement to be true, or do you disagree with it?
Ultimate power. I mean, I don't.
Right. So just to really give you a good picture, right? Right now in America, under our Constitution, right, we have checks and balances, right? There's 3 branches of government, right? Sometimes it feels like he wants to be able to create an environment where, you can't go against him. You can't, even if what you're doing is justified under the law, right? And what I'm using, the basis of what I'm saying is, when I see things like the removal of judges, the removal of people in the military, people who have had differing opinions. So it just gives me that feel and that tone, right? So I'm just curious to know if you agree or you disagree with that statement.
No, I think even when a CEO comes into a corporation or he gets in a position, the first thing he does is he aligns a certain amount of, he aligns a cabinet, a board, a group of people who aligns themselves to a particular mission.
Yeah, but that's a rough comparison because the bottom line is completely different.
For sure.
One bottom line is money. The other bottom line is lives. I mean, right? I mean, the president is responsible for the people. The people. The CEO is responsible for the dollar. So I think that's a weird comparison. I get where you're trying to go with it, but
they also follow the government body.
Same thing. There's just leadership. You're in a position that you make all the decisions. You're in charge. You literally say up and everybody jumps. That's literally the person on top. A CEO is the person on top. He's running an entire corporate. Lockheed Martin is millions of dollars. I mean, 50 million.
But America isn't designed that way.
Though.
But a country is the same thing. Protocol. That the checks and balances only gives you so much power. You can want ultimate power. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. So therein lies the problem. Therein lies the fundamental difference. You think our country is exactly the same as a business, right? Like I think that's the fundamental.
That doesn't necessarily.
I mean, I'm sure you can make a correlation. You can really try to put two things together at any point. But what I'm saying is, if I'm looking at it strictly from humanity, right? The role of the president, what's more important to me is that we have a president that's in place that cares more about humanity because he'll make humane decisions as opposed to decisions that are inhumane. Like sending Marines to California just because people are, protesting.
Yeah.
But then you don't think Marines to be
literally everyone to get law and order in this country. That's out of control.
So where was it in January 6th?
Yes.
That's also out of control. I 100% disagree.
So the military should have been used then?
Bring the National Guard. There's no justifiable reason to destroy property and lives because you're not happy with the way things are. If there's a world where you have a voice through legislation or be able to change things, this is the country. You have every opportunity and have the means to be able to do it. In other countries, you don't have nothing. At the end of the day,
that didn't start it until the Marines
not allow people, groups of people, cities, states, just destroying anything. That's not how it works.
Do you understand that wasn't happening at the time when he sent them in, right? You understand that, right? It wasn't to that level you talking about.
Well, that's the reason why
the worst part of it was
still escalated in such a way. But at the end of the day,
you antagonize it.
Wait till the cities burn down to send in the Marines. That's not how it works. You have to send it in.
I mean, he was president at the same time the January 6th did the same thing. What is the difference?
To the government. They did it to the government, bro. They were trying to kill
here. What was the difference? How is it? Let me ask you this. I see Chris is in the weight room. When Chris ready, he can let us know. But let me ask you this, man. How is it you find nothing wrong with immoral behaviors of people you support, but you find it wrong with people you don't support? How is that possible, bro?
I'm inconsistent. January 6th is 100% wrong. There's actually a complete parallel between the two. Between every other time where there was some sort of civil unrest in all of history and the times that you destroy anything, it's wrong.
Do you think Trump was responsible for January 6th?
What's that?
No? Do you think Trump was responsible for January 6th or no?
I don't think he was necessarily responsible of January 6th. I think that
he could have prevented it and he chose not to.
I don't think that it moved the needle of that much per se. I think that people felt a collection of, and this happens all the time in all different countries in different ways, where a collection of people have a certain sentiment toward a particular entity, whatever that is, and that sentiment was a frustration, and it culminated at January 6th. And a lot of bad things, some things escalated to a place in which it shouldn't have.
So why didn't he bring in them? Why do you think Trump chose not to exercise military power in that moment?
I don't know. Because, well, I mean, was he in the position to exercise military power?
He's the president, bro. What the heck?
All right, let's bring Chris in. Chris looks like he ready.
All right. Hey, so all right, hey, ladies and gentlemen, all of our listeners and streamers later, we're talking with Lindsay, and we're gonna bring Chris in. We're talking, getting them back on the show to give us some, update on how the president of the United States doing, because they have strong opinion about it. They love this man, or they support this man. I should say support this man. And I just want to bring Chris in so he can join the conversation. Hey, Chris, welcome to the show, sir. Your mic is off, sir.
Chris is back.
Chris is back. Yeah, we sure can. Okay. See, we make sure that you got your boy Lindsay here with you, so you guys don't feel overwhelmed. And we were having a great conversation with Lindsay, by the way. So
I was hearing it.
Yeah, so it wasn't nothing that we because we're trying to be educated here. What I'm trying to do is to see what you guys seeing, because maybe I'm missing something. Right. And we were talking earlier about these days that now Trump is in, and the things that he's doing, and the contrast to now and then. Right. And one of the things that we were talking about in the beginning was I asked Lindsay about, the things that Trump promised his supporters, and what have he done so far with those promises. One of the things that he mentioned was the border security, right? He talked about the border security, and he talked about contributing. And Lindsay, you can chime in after I ask Chris this question, because he make country contribute, right? And he put America first with the debt and all those things, right? What say you, Chris, on that level, as far as the things he promised and the things that he delivers so far? What is it that you got in your mind?
All right, I'm going to touch on that, but I want to touch on something else first. What you guys were talking about while I was in the waiting room. You guys spoke about. Give
me a second, Chris. Answer that question first, and then you can go to something else, because you might talk about something that we want to tie in back in there. So let's go to the first question I asked you.
Okay, so the question again is, what has Trump done
so far that he promised that he was going to do, and it's in effect, and it's effective right now?
How has he done, or what has he done? What's the question?
What has he done?
What has he done?
That's effective.
Promises made, promises kept. He said he was going to go ahead and take care of the border situation. He locked the border down. The border has been reduced to a trickle, an absolute trickle. That's number one. Number two, he said he's going to implement tariffs, and he did exactly that. Number three, he said he's going to try to bring down gas prices, and he's doing exactly that. Number four, he said, excuse me. Number four, he said he's going to try to bring jobs back to America. That's happening. I don't know if you guys heard today, but the economy is doing pretty well. The economy is doing pretty well right now. Things are not the way they were last year at this time. So that's some of the promises that he's made and some of the promises that he's kept. And if he's done that in less than, it's been about 6 months since he's been in office, or slightly over 6 months. As I said the last time I was on here, if he's done just this much in approximately 6 months, I can't wait to see what he's going to do before he gets out of office.
Okay, so you're saying he locked the border down.
Yes, he did.
There's just a trickle coming in, right?
Yes.
Okay, so but the only thing you can give me information on, because you can't tell me about the other things you mentioned about, the economy, and you can't. Yeah, tell me about it then.
Eggs are not as expensive as they used to be. I know that may sound like a talking point, but it's the truth.
What?
I'm sorry?
You said eggs are not expensive as they used to be?
As expensive as they used to be.
Okay.
Gas prices are not as expensive as they used to be.
What's the contributing factor to those things?
What's the contributing factor?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the prices. I'm looking at the reality of it. I'm looking at
so
the
what's
prices.
the contributing factor? Why is that all of a sudden that way?
I'm not going. I can't give you the contributing factor. I'm just looking at the prices in comparison to what they were last year at this time. Whatever he's doing, regardless if he's opening the pipelines, if he's, I don't know, whatever he may be doing.
You think it's him that's doing that?
I'm sorry?
You think that's him that's doing that?
Well, he's the one in office right now. And when Biden was in
everything that's happening now is because he's in office.
I did not say everything.
Okay, so the things that you highlighting, is it because he's in office? That's what just causing the effect? But you don't know what he's doing to make it happen.
Well, when you asked me about the gas prices, I couldn't talk about the gas prices. But if you're asking me about the border, I can talk about that because the border, obviously Kamala Harris was the border czar, and she was put in charge, and they were letting come through like water coming through a faucet. He's put ICE in charge. He's given Tom Homan the ability to go ahead and control things. You know, he's put Pam Bondi in charge, is making sure that people are getting prosecuted who are sending people home who are here illegally. He's doing a lot of things that I think is making the country a better place. Now, now let me say this to that, and I want to comment on something you guys were speaking about while I was in the waiting room. Now, let me say this to that. My personal opinion is this: Trump does things that I don't necessarily agree with. He's not perfect; none of us are. But at the same time, I'm looking again at how it is today versus how it was last year at this time. Now, if it was me, if I was the president, what I would do is this: people who are here illegally, but they're working, they're bringing value to society, they're contributing. I would say, you know what? Let's kind of check this person's background out, see what they're doing. And if everything is clean, they've had a clean record, everything is going well, but they just aren't green card holders or legal citizens, then let's try to help them to become that. They're trying to get the American dream. My family is originally from Jamaica. I was born in Jamaica, and everybody who comes to America, they come to America for that American dream. But the ones who are here that are causing hell, who's a boil on the backside of society, get those people out as quickly as they can.
So those kids too are causing problem that he has in zip tie that's sending them, deporting them. Those kids are causing us problem.
Are these kids American children, or are they children from foreign countries?
They're children from foreign country.
Send their behinds back too.
There's some of them that are born here in the U.S.
Well, that's different.
And they're sending them.
That's different.
If they're born here,
no, wait. That's different. If they're born here, then.
But he's sending them back too. With their family.
As I said previously, I don't agree with every single thing that he's doing. I'm not agreeing with every single thing that he's doing. But
what don't you agree with, Chris? Let's talk about that for a second. I'm curious. What are some of the things that you don't agree with?
As I was just saying, he is deporting every single person that he catches. Let's just say that they're after a criminal, an illegal.
Hold on. But I just want to make sure, because I don't know if I'm understanding.
Yeah, I'm gonna explain it.
No, because I need to be clear on something first. Let me just ask a clarifying question.
Sure, go ahead.
When you make the statement, he's picking up everyone. What do you mean? Like everyone that's here illegally?
That's what the reports are saying.
Okay, so let me just so I'm clear. Why does that matter? If they're here illegally, you don't agree that they should be sent home? Or you think some people here illegally should stay, other people here illegally should go?
But that's my point I'm making. As I said before, I don't agree with every single thing. I feel that people who are a benefit to society, they should be able to get the opportunity to earn their green card and be able to stay in the country because they're adding to our society.
Even if they came in illegally and they're currently here illegally. That's what I just want to clarify. Okay.
Yes. Even if they're here illegally and they came here illegally, yes, I do feel that they should have the opportunity. Like I said, my parents, myself, we are immigrants from a third world country, Jamaica. So I feel everybody should have the chance to be able to achieve the American dream. But if you're coming over here and you're breaking our laws and you're doing things to hurt the society, then out you go.
How many of those are criminals that got sent home?
I can't give you a number.
Do you think there's anyone that got sent home that are not criminals.
I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are. Let me explain why I say that. Let me explain why I say that. Because they're sweeping up everybody. Take, for example, if they are looking for a person who is wanted for crimes and he's an illegal alien, if they find that person in an area or with a group of people who are illegal aliens but are not necessarily committing crimes, they're sweeping up everybody and bringing them home. There's no due process for the ones who are here that are not committing crime. That I don't 100% agree with.
Okay, yeah, what else? What else don't you agree with? What else?
Okay, so what I don't agree with Trump is what you're asking, correct? I just want to be clear.
Yes.
Okay, what I don't, there's not a whole lot that I do not agree with.
I figured that much.
Yeah,
so is that it?
Yeah, because I mean he's trying to change it for women for men to stay at the women's sports. I agree with that. He's trying to give us again.
Right, we know we get what you agree with. We get
Lindsay. Let me ask Lindsay that same question, Mark.
What are the things that you disagree with, Chris? I think that
I just said I don't have.
He said it was only the one thing. It was only the one thing.
I just want to hear Lindsay too.
So when you said that, I said that I don't agree with everything, then why didn't you just say that I don't agree with the one thing? Because I was waiting for more. I'm going by what you're saying, so I'm excited because I'm making a list here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's only one.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? If you give me some time, I'm sure I can come up with a few things because everything that I think he's
perfect. Think about it while Lindsay answers.
Okay, but wait, can I touch that?
No, wait, hold on.
We're gonna let Lindsay answer the question.
So, can you restate the question?
What are things that Trump has done that you do not agree with thus far?
In general, when it comes to ICE?
Anything in general.
Oh, okay. I mean, there's lots of things. I mean, I think if somebody
top three, that's all we need. Top three.
So I would say when it comes to immigration, what he's doing with ICE, I think the majority of who he's targeting has kind of been misrepresented, but the majority of who he's targeting is actual degree of criminality. Like if you have some sort of previous offense, or if you're an actual criminal and you're illegally here, they are targeting people who actually have criminality. Now, I think there's about probably 20%, probably an 80-20 rule of people who don't really have offenses. They just got sent back. To me, I think that's one major one that I disagree with. I think that there should be a process, a mechanism by which people who made it here, they established themselves, they're working hard. I lived in Mexico for 3 months with indigenous people, and I have found that they are incredibly hardworking, very humble population, and I think the vast majority of them are not really criminals. They're really just hardworking people that are relatively exploited. I think there should be a process for them to be able to get some level of natural citizenship. That's just my opinion. I don't think you should just be going on taking families and taking them back. I mean, it makes no sense to me. However, if you're MS-13 and you have any degree of criminality, well, you know what? You shouldn't have been here in the first place. And if you didn't cross the border and then come here and mess it up, you screwed up. You literally took the greatest opportunity you possibly could have ever had in your entire life, and then you did the wrong thing. You should have just been like everybody else. The rest of the other set of people who came here, who are humble, put their head down, just went to work.
Okay, that's one. What's the other ones? Give me 2 more.
All the things that I don't agree with Trump.
Yeah, man, it shouldn't be that hard. You said you had a lot of them.
There's I honestly don't really like.
It's okay. Trump ain't watching this show. Don't worry about it.
It's not a policy per se, but I just don't like the way he talks per se. I mean, I'm really just all objective of the facts. I don't like the way he talks himself up. He sounds very narcissistic very often.
He is. I'm sorry.
I just want things to be accurately depicted. When I hear Trump, he's like, "I'm the best," I don't know,
big beautiful deal.
I don't know. I can kind of.
That speaks to his character. Do you think that speaks to his character at all?
What's that?
Do you think that speaks to his character? What you're saying?
Yeah, I think I think politicians are all garbage on the inside.
No, we're talking about Trump. Let's talk about Trump.
That they hide it better. They're polished.
So is that a yes or no? You think it speaks to his character? Then?
He don't care. He don't care. He don't care what you think.
No, that's speaks to his character.
I mean, you don't think Nancy Pelosi,
she's not the president.
Well, she's like
not the president, though.
Not the president.
No, she's not the president.
She's not the president. Okay, let me ask you a question then. Let's do this. If you had to compare Barack Obama's character to Trump's character, which president do you think has a better character, like a better person that you would find yourself liking?
Oh, geez. He has to think on that.
Loaded. You know, I think my intrinsic answer is going to say Obama per se to a certain degree.
Fair enough.
However, if you look at Trump's children, loyal, how many parents, children have nothing to do with them? All you did is work and your kids don't know you. I will tell you, all his kids loyal to him. Everyone who spends
time with him, he's an
awesome person to be around, great friend. They say all good things.
Hey, Lindsay, hold on. I just got to say one quick thing.
All these conclusions.
Hey, Diddy's kids is loyal to him too. I just want to say, I mean, I feel you because that helps me. If you go back to my argument earlier, Diddy might be a hell of a guy because all his kids is loyal to him too, brother. So I just had to make that quick comparison. I got you, man.
Great comparison. That was good. That was good.
Listen. Is there a number 3? Or is that it?
I'll probably have number 3. I mean, there literally is probably like, maybe 30 small ones. I think over time, I think anyone who likes everything about a person or an entity, I think is relatively blindly biased. If you're in possession of, understanding the intricacies of a particular subject, the more you study a subject, the more you realize there's things you're not going to agree with. If you study the Bible, you've caused it for Christian, and everybody in a particular church believes everything, that just tells me you don't read the Bible. If you read the Bible, you would have all these different positions, all these different stances, all these different complexities, all these different verses. And I like Trump. I think he is the absolute best. I think he's one of the best presidents in the history of the United States. However, he has a ton of flaws. He makes a lot of mistakes. He says a lot of dumb stuff. I don't agree with every policy per se, but I think, at the end of the day, I think that he's going to bring prosperity and economic growth. I think he's going to bring law and order, and I think he's going to put America first.
You mean authoritarian? That's a form of law and order because that's where we're heading, right? And also, you said he's going to bring prosperity. That's not what is in the House right now. That's not what's in the Senate. This is going to add trillions to the deficit. It's going to add trillions to this economy. So how is it you feel that he's going to bring prosperity here? How's that so? Well, you think is it magically just going to happen?
Yeah, but that's such a simplistic version. Like even to say just because you add one thing, but it's a formula. Let's look at the equation. It's like plus and half.
Okay, so all right, good. Let's look at the equation. So one of the big part is cutting healthcare for people, right? That's because to fund that, he's going to have to cut some major stuff, right? Cutting healthcare. You got older parents, right? And I'm pretty sure some of us have parents and who's getting Medicare. And some people we know that get a Medicaid, right? So do you have any one of us can sit here and say we have enough money to pay for healthcare when he got that out?
I don't know the details of that, but let me ask you a question. Do you think in the midst of these different divisions of our government, Medicare being one of them, do you think there's waste, fraud, and abuse?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's exactly like we're not.
No, but this is the problem, though. We have Doge in there, right? One of his thing talking about waste and fraud, but where's the evidence of it? Why they cannot put it out there, and why is it we got people who?
Do you think there's any evidence?
Where's it? You know what it is? Like for instance, evidence we talking about. Like for instance, how many? Listen. How many criminals were deported so far? What is the percentage of criminals that was deported under everyone that was deported?
I think it's Obama.
No. How many criminals were deported under Trump administration so far from the time you get in office, with all the people that was deported, how many of them were criminals?
Nobody really knows. Nobody
knows. You're right. But you dwelling on it though. You dwelling on it because he said they are criminal.
Me?
You said he did a good thing.
No, I didn't listen. I said you asked me one of the things that I don't agree with.
But that's what we're talking about, evidence, right? We're talking about evidence, right?
But nobody.
Here's a man who said we have a bad deal with Canada. And forget that he's the one that wrote that deal. He's the one that signed that deal.
NAFTA.
I mean, come on, bro. You guys are sitting here and you're trying to educate people on things that if you ask the specifics of, you guys don't have it because nobody knows what the fraud and what the waste or what the numbers truly are because every day they keep changing.
It doesn't matter what they are as long as it's there.
But it's been there for hundreds of years.
It doesn't matter for hundreds of years. And that's the problem. You can't clean it up.
But it's been there for hundreds of years.
But it doesn't matter how long it's been there. He's coming to clean it up. It's coming to clean it up.
Yeah, but what they're cleaning up? Tell me. What is it that they're cleaning up? Because the departments, they think shrinking the department. All he's doing is shrinking the department to loyalty to him. That's it. And you guys could deny that if you want to. All he's doing is shrinking department so people can be loyal to him. A play out of Project 2025. You can say all you want, but what's shrinking the shrinking the government? What is that doing?
Well, you said Project 2025, and you just brought Project 2025.
I just did because everything that's happening is from there. Shrinking the government, getting loyalists, firing people who don't agree with them.
Shrinking the government and Project 2025.
Destroying schools.
No, my question is shrinking the government and Project 2025 the same thing? They're synonymous with each other?
No, there's a part of that same memorandum or that same write-ups or whatever
I didn't read the entire, it was over 900 pages. I didn't read the entire thing.
But there's a cliff note to it, sir.
Right, I get that. But what I'm saying is based on what I have heard, and I'm admitting I haven't read it. I haven't read any of it. But what I've heard, it focuses on Christian values. That's what I've heard.
That's all you heard.
That's
where you hear that from. If you don't mind, where did you hear that from?
I've heard that from several different sources. I've heard that on
Give me one of them that you can remember.
I heard it on CNN.
No, you didn't. You're lying.
Yes, I did.
You're a damn lie. I'm going to call you a liar right now.
Oh, Lord. So how are you going to tell me where I heard it and where I didn't hear it?
Because I'm telling you lie. Because you said what you got from it, it was Christian values. All right, tell me about the Christian value it was talking about.
When they talk about women wanting, well, I have to be politically correct here.
So we're on the argument.
I understand that, but I'm still going to be politically correct. When they're talking about women, well, let me not just say women. When they talk about people agreeing with the abortion, I won't say what I wanted to really say. Now, I'm a Christian. I believe the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and I brought this up before on this medium. Now, I forgot exactly which book in the Bible it says. I believe it's in the Old Testament, but I think, God said to a person in the Bible, "I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb." That means to me that life begins prior to birth. From a biblical perspective. That's the authority I go by. So anything that goes against the authority of God, I am totally against. You understand what I'm saying?
He said, "Thou shalt not kill either," but you believe in it, and your president believe in the death penalty.
Right, thou shalt not kill. So
but the death penalty is one of your agenda.
You're proving my point. So you're killing children inside the womb. So you're proving my point.
I'm not proving your point. I'm telling you, I'm contrasting what you're talking about.
No,
because you're saying the Bible.
Baby murder,
but I said thou shalt not kill, but he believes in the death penalty,
which is murder.
So how you support him on no abortion, but you okay with him with the death penalty? How's it?
Okay, I don't necessarily agree with the death penalty. This is my opinion.
So you just take what you like better.
No. This is my opinion on the death penalty. I believe instead of sentencing somebody to death, my personal opinion is the worst death that they can have is lock them in a cell 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They come out 1 hour.
Chris, my point is this. You believe in what you want to believe, and you support him because you believe in one thing. You can let it. He can be a mass murderer, but because he don't believe in abortion, you okay with that? Let all the rest, you give him a pass on it. That's basically what you're saying to me here.
No, what I'm saying is I don't believe in abortion. That's what I'm saying.
But you don't know. You say you don't believe in that penalty either, but you still support him.
It's murder, and
you still support him though.
I would support Trump.
Yes.
I just said earlier I don't agree with everything that he does.
Well, you didn't give us one of those though.
I gave you one.
I have to jog your memory on that.
I spoke about the border, and I thought about prior to the gentleman on here right now.
What question you had, man?
I
agree with you, Chris. I mean, both you and Lindsay agreed that immigrants should have due process, right? I mean, that's basically what you both are saying, right?
Well,
yes, right. Don't try to say no because you've already said that you think it shouldn't be this big swoop. It should be that people who are here doing the right thing should be allowed their opportunity to get their green card. So in essence, what you're saying is people should get due process in this immigration policy.
Not due process.
Wait. Not necessarily.
No, but again, no. Think about what I'm saying. Okay. If people are coming in, and I'm saying this to both of you, if people are coming in this country, when they walk across the border, it's hard to say who's the criminal, who's the not, correct?
Correct.
So once you determine this person is here illegally, you then bring them in, and then you try to figure out why they're here, what they've been doing, what their behavior has been. And then if you determine that their behavior has been good and they positively contribute to society, then what you both have said, at least that's what I heard, is that they should be allowed an opportunity to get their green card. And it shouldn't be this fail swoop where everybody's got to go.
Well, let me ask you a question.
No. Just is that correct or incorrect? I'm attempting to agree with you based off Jay saying that you didn't say anything. I just want to make sure for our audience that that's what it was. That's the thing that you're saying you don't agree with.
You are partially correct. Yes.
Where am I incorrect?
This is what I feel. Like I said before, people who are here doing the right thing and they're here illegally, give them the opportunity to prove themselves. And if they pass the test, then give them the opportunity to go ahead and get their green card.
So what? Okay, so when they're giving someone the test, what is that? How do they do that? How do they test someone?
You vet them.
Is it like a written exam? They put them.
You vet them. You vet them.
Okay, so if you're vetting them, what are you doing?
You're making sure that they have obeyed the law. They haven't committed any crimes.
How do you? So what do you do? Like how do you go about that? What is that called?
I have no idea how you do it. They don't have records. They don't have any documentation.
So the language you speak is not. That's a process.
Yeah, of course.
So when I said you just want due process for everybody, why would you say that's not correct?
The reason I'm saying that is because of the simple fact that certain people who committing crimes and who coming over here illegally and committing crimes, you don't think they need due process. Honestly,
but it's all some sort of due process, right?
And not just that, but let me say this as well. You've got millions. I think they said about 20 million people or 50 million people came over here illegally. Now, if we take the time to give each and every single person, again, like I said before, it's a slippery slope. I agree with giving people opportunity if they prove themselves. But if you give each and every person due process, you know how long that's going to take?
No, because I'm about to show you the definition of due process.
No. Okay, due process basically. Okay, show me the definition. But in the meantime, while you're looking it up, think about it like this. If you've got approximately 15 to 20 million people that came into the country illegally, and you were to take each person and take them to court and give them due process, as you're saying, do you know how many years it would take for 15 to 20 million people to go through the court and get due process? You know how much, the expense on the taxpayer that would be?
Basically saying throw that one out the door.
No, Chris, then what you're what you're saying is not possible, bro. Because
exactly. What I'm saying is not possible. You can't have Due process.
No, that's not what he's talking about, Chris.
The point that I'm making to you, I'm saying what you're saying is not possible because you want the government to bring people in and just say what? Okay, so this person says, I'm not a criminal. Okay, perfect. You can stay, get your green card. How do they know? How would they determine it if they don't do due process, bro?
No.
How?
What I'm talking about is this: the people who are here now, like I said earlier, is the trickle effect.
How do you separate criminals from good people? That's all I'm asking. How do you separate the criminals, the good ones from the bad ones? How do you know for sure?
How do we? They have to come from South Africa and they have to be farmers.
There is no
position. They have to come from South Africa and they have to be farmers. If they're not white farmers from South Africa, they're criminals.
There is really no way to separate the good ones from the bad ones until they prove themselves to be good or bad.
Right. And the only way they can do that, they have to move to South Africa, become white farmers, and they will get in here without any hassle. That's the bottom line.
No, that's not the bottom line.
No,
basically saying,
how did that happen?
Huh?
How did that happen?
How did what? How did what happen?
Exactly. So how is it that they were able to come to this country without any issue? Why did they get that special treatment?
Okay, I feel like you guys are leading. Well, not you guys, because Fresh is not asking the question. I feel like you, Jay, are leading into a gotcha question.
Whoa.
Not really. So let me tell you exactly what I'm attempting to do. Because again, I thought I was actually agreeing with you. No, but where I got confused is when you said no, there's no due process. I just don't understand how that's possible because I'm confused on how it would work.
Let me be clear.
The only thing I'm looking for is some sort of solution because and I agree. I personally believe that they should be given due process. And to your point, the ones who are doing right should be allowed to stay.
Yes, you are 100% correct. That's exactly what I'm saying. So I want to make that crystal clear, so there's no confusion. The ones who are doing right and who are contributing to society, paying their tax, well, not paying taxes because they're working at the table, but they're contributing to society. Yes, they should stay. But
some of them are paying taxes. But Chris, is that happening now?
I'm not with the
paying taxes. How?
I gotta pay taxes. They gotta pay taxes.
Hold on, how are they paying taxes? They don't have Social Security numbers.
No, there's some of them.
When they go buy food.
No, there's some of them got work. Some of them do have work permit that they've been. There are people who's been working in professional building. Women, but they're being deported still.
But wait. If let me ask you a question. The fact that they have work permits, then they're permitted to work, correct?
Yeah.
So what's the chances of somebody who's permitted to work being here illegally? Let's make sense of this.
There's a lot of it's not because the point I'm getting at, he's not just deporting illegal people. He's deporting people who are waiting to get full records, like their green cards and so forth. Those are some of the people that's my point I'm trying to make to you, Chris. You're saying he promised to deport criminals. That's why I was asking you how many criminals have he deported so far? You don't know, but you know he deported a lot of people.
Yes.
Women killed, children and kids, dogs and cats, everything he deported, right?
Yes.
But you don't know who is who.
Correct.
But there are people who's been working where he goes to their job and get them. There's people who went to immigration interviews and he's waiting for them there. So if they're doing the right thing, Chris, how are they criminals?
But
if they have an interview, how are they criminals? That's what he said he was deported. Lindsay, help me here. That's what you were harping on too as well.
Okay, let's focus and pay attention.
Okay,
again, cool. I just said that I don't agree with people getting deported who are doing the right thing. I feel those people should have the opportunity to prove themselves and get their get their green card. I feel that way. But the ones who are committing crimes and again, who are a boil on the backside of society, those people need to go.
I think I agree with that too. I think Mark agreed with that too. But you still not explaining because that's not happening. That is not happening, right? Is that happening today?
Is what they're getting people? No, it's not, and that's the part I don't agree with.
Okay. And
Chris, just so you know, they can file taxes. I just want to make that clear for our listeners and
Let
you.
me see. Yes, you can file. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, Fresh, when he said that you have to have a social, but we all
just Google it, Brody.
know that
you don't have to take my word for it.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say that too, Fresh, earlier, because when he said that, because you are in housing, Chris, you should know, because people with ITIN numbers, that's something big in the industry. They file taxes and they're legal to work, but they don't have socials. So what you said was kind of like,
okay, well, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that. The TIN.
ITN.
You don't know what an ITN number
at
is?
this point, I mean, the main point is
I don't. I'm admitting
that's
it.
not what the show's about. We ain't going there. We ain't going there. It's fine. The only point is we're just clarifying, just for you and the listeners, that if you are here illegally, you can file taxes. No big deal.
How?
No big deal that you didn't know.
How?
Because
man, you could Google that on your own time. That's not what the show is about, right? I just wanted to make that point.
It is topic at least,
right? You know, just so everybody understands that you can. And again, just getting back to the point, I agree with you. I think you should rethink what you're saying. If due process was part of the policy, I get where you're going with this. It will take longer. I don't disagree with that, right? But again, I think it just speaks to the fact that some of the things that Trump is doing is fundamentally problematic. And what I mean by fundamental, when you think about your moral code or whatever it is, and that's what so many people's problem with him. We get it. Like if I own a business, he could potentially make it so my tax breaks are better, which ultimately means more profit for me. I get it. And you can say, well, because of that, this is why I want Trump. Or you can live in this sort of world where you actually believe by him, doing this tariff thing is going to be good for our country. And maybe somehow you think it's going to make you more money. That's fine. But the point is, if he is doing behavior that goes against what you morally and fundamentally feel inside, what we don't understand, and when I say we, because I think I speak for my co-host, is how do you still vote for this Negro? I mean, he's a Negro, but you know what I want to say. You know what I'm saying? I just didn't want to say it.
Okay, but the thing is, I heard you use the word and you said it twice, fundamentally. But I'm going to compare and contrast. A lot of things that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did, I more so fundamentally disagree with what they did.
Like what?
The border.
Okay, that's one. I think a lot of people agree with that.
Listen, Chris, you realize all they did is give people due process, man. Like,
Say again?
Just give due process.
Give them due process. Is that what you just
Lindsay,
said?
feel free to jump in. I see your face.
So,
what do you got to say?
Due process, like I think you're saying two different things. Like you're asking about an opinion we have about ICE per se, and giving a process that allows a person who's substantially contributing to our society in a way that's not criminal in nature. And I think there is a way to vet that, by the way. I think that's relatively reasonable. But and due process is more of a legal term that's used to ensure that a person has a right to a fair trial. Like due process is not like, we're not going to use due process when it comes to vetting a certain set of immigrants in our, that's two different things.
Like who?
But you can have due process without a trial. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think so. I think
in order to have due process, you're saying you have to have a trial.
Due process is a legal term that if it's not necessarily an actual trial, but there's some legal judicial system that looks at the actual facts and makes a determination. Like due process is when we talk about due process, you're talking about you have
just curious though, how do you vet them though, Chris? I mean,
we have 100,000 people potentially in a year that we're actually sending out of this country. And
without some form of due process though, how would you vet them?
They have been charged already with a certain degree of criminality. And instead of going through a trial process and confirm that, we're deporting them.
I'm asking you again, though, how you know these people got certain form of criminality? How do you know that?
Well, So you think a person who's committed murder, sexual abuse, MS-13. Like you
okay,
think
how do you know that? Where is the record saying that?
They already have a conviction.
How you know that? You got you.
If you're starting, who said that? You start off with the people. First of all, you guys mentioned that there was no documentation of the number. I see right here, 170,000. We know who actually has criminal convictions. They're not dumb. Like these people are not just.
Okay, talk to me then about it. Then I ask the question, so answer me.
We're deporting you. It's not like this blind, unintellectual, uneducated, just blanket.
Have they deported Americans? Have they deported Americans?
Very thoughtful. It seems very intentional, and it seems like they're seeking after criminality. It seems the people who don't believe that's actually happening is just succumbing to the misrepresentation found in.
I don't give a crap about nobody else. I'm asking you.
They literally said, we're just taking regular people from their families, and really, that's such a misrepresentation.
Have they deported people by mistake? Have anyone got deported by mistake?
I don't doubt that's the case. I don't doubt there's people who.
So how many criminals were deported? You got the record.
Asking the same question and there's no answer.
No, he said there is. He just said it was.
There are some
170,000. Is that the number you gave?
Well, I think the available data for 2023. So we have certain numbers.
2025, man.
There's always there. So there's a certain degree that
what are we doing here?
More than 5 million, right? So we do know that based on the number of employees they have, the amount of people who are actually working for it, the amount of people that their goals are per day, there's probably a relatively round number of the amount of people they're sending out. And I know that we may not have to identify the exact numbers, but at the end of the day, criminality is their main.
I'm not doubting that.
I guess really what we're so curious about is we were really just trying to actually see, hey, do we actually see eye to eye on something that Trump is doing? And it just seems like when we attempted to establish that, you both wanted to then defend it, because I'm just really curious. On the one hand, you guys continuously say that people who are not doing wrong should be able to stay, but obviously under the Trump administration, those people still have to go. Do we agree?
As long as they consider illegal, he's sending them away. That's why I want to know. He said he was sending away criminals, right?
So
but people who help
sending away criminals, then why isn't he starting in the jail? Why does the jail system still have incarcerated immigrants that have committed crimes? If it is really about what you guys,
he's about getting his fellow rich men rich, because that prison is
going to keep them there. That's the issue. I don't see. If you're telling me that the problem is with criminals, then why are the criminals that are immigrants still in American prisons? Don't you think that he should have started with the incarceration in the United States?
I can answer that question. It's pretty simple.
Okay, please.
The ones who are in jail already are not a threat to society. The ones who are not incarcerated and running around wild are a threat to society. So get rid of those people first, get them out the country, and then start with the ones who are incarcerated. It's as simple as that.
Okay, so go for the harder fish first, and then the easier fish.
I could take that as an explanation. I'll take that. But again, I'm still going to go back to what I'm saying. We don't know this man is only deporting criminal. He's deported everyone deemed not a citizen, or here waiting,
that, right?
Or here waiting for the citizenship.
You don't have any numbers, so how do you come up with the conclusion that there's all these families being broken up when you're not in possession of the facts? You're saying that you don't know how many people, so then how can you come to such a conclusion?
Well, Chris, didn't you just give us an example of that? Chris, did you not just give us an example of that when you started?
What? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Of a family, someone being deported that shouldn't.
I'm sorry. Hold on, wait. Everybody's talking at one time. I didn't hear the question. What was the question?
So Lindsay was saying, how does Jason know that families are being broken up and yada yada yada, and the wrong people are being sent away?
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, when you started talking, wasn't that something when you started talking about the fact that you don't agree? Didn't you give that example of somebody who shouldn't be sent away got sent away? Or did I misunderstand you?
I believe
don't believe you. That's what you said.
That's what I said. Well, I probably did say it. Yeah.
So why would you believe in it now?
Oh, wait,
but he was saying it's a likelihood. It doesn't necessarily.
But the point is, let's say this. Now, you guys talking about people who are being sent away and broken up with families. But let's just acknowledge the fact that when somebody commits a crime, regardless of what, they're broken up. The families are broken up. What about the mass incarceration that took place under Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton?
Oh my God!
Right. So when they put,
oh my God, are you that shallow?
Let him finish.
No, that drives me crazy.
Wait a minute. When they put all the black men in jail during the 90s, you know what I'm saying? They broke up families back then over the drug, or during the drug times when they was out there selling crack cocaine and all that. They was locking up brothers, putting them in jail. They were away from their family until Trump said, "Yo, let's pardon some of these people," and got them out of jail.
Who was president when that was happening?
What you mean when they were being locked up? We know who was president. It was your boy Clinton.
Didn't that drug issue started with your boy that read the book upside down?
Read the book upside down. What are you talking about? What? Denzel Washington? What are you talking about? I have no idea.
Yo, I'm kind of lost too.
Oh no, I'm talking about Bush.
It actually started Ronald Reagan.
Nah, Reagan, bro.
His wife.
No, actually,
that crack epidemic started in the 80s. Early 80s, like 83, 84. I remember as a young kid.
The war on drugs was actually something that was initiated by Nixon. Obviously, he couldn't fulfill it but that was something that really started with him, and then it got passed on. Eventually, Reagan took that over.
Right, but the point I'm making is
it was Reagan. I don't know why I mix Reagan and Bush up.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is this. You got to talk about the separation of families, but that's been going on for years. This started with the Democrats back in the slavery days when they were separating.
Bro, we had an issue with that then, and we have an issue with it now.
Wait.
We don't need a history. I don't need a history on that. I had a problem with it then, and I have a problem with it now.
Why would I present facts and y'all don't like the facts?
No, I agree with your fact. We just don't need a rundown for some time's sake. You don't have to run that down. I agree with you. I had a problem with it then, and I have a problem with it now. You just can't admit it's a problem now. You were okay with a problem then, but now you can't admit it's a problem now. That's what the difference is between me and you.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. The children who are born here, according to the Constitution, are they not American citizens? I'm talking about the ones who are born to immigrants. Are they not American citizens according to the 13th Amendment?
14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment, yes.
Right.
So why are they being sent away?
No, wait, hold on. Let me finish. They're not being sent away. If the parents are being deported, the parents are taking their children with them. You're not leaving them here. I'm sorry. I forgot the young lady who's on the panel. I'm sorry. Tell me your name once again.
Isn't it down at the bottom of your screen, Dirty Diva?
Well, no, I got my full screen. So
It's Diva. Go ahead. Ask your question.
Diva, I hope I'd like to ask you a question. You know, it's entirely up to you if you want to answer it now. But are you a mother?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Now, if you were in a situation where you're going to be, let's say that you were an illegal alien and you're going to be deported, but your child was born over here, would you want to take your child with you, or would you rather leave your child here?
If I'm here illegally, 9 times out of 10, I'm here because, and then I'm going to speak from the people that I know, they're running from their country. And a lot of people that I know already know that their country is terrible. So as a mother, if I know my country is terrible and my children were born here, no, I'm not going to want to take them with me. And no, I have not seen anybody saying that they want to take their children who are American citizens, and take them back to war-stricken countries.
Okay, they even do that? Can they take Americans away with them?
JJ, hold on. So let me ask you, let me make sure I understand something, Diva. Let me make sure I'm crystal clear on what you're saying. So as your maternal instincts are, you're telling me that if you were an illegal alien, you would rather leave your children here than bring them with you. You don't want your children with you. Is that what am I understanding you correctly?
I'm saying that 100%. I have my girlfriend, she's Filipino. Her mother sent her here to the United States when she was 11 years old.
Hold on, Chris. Let me just ask you a question. Hold up, because you made a point to say earlier you were from Jamaica.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So are you saying that being from Jamaica, you never heard one story of a parent, either one, leaving their child behind in Jamaica and coming here, or sending their child over here and they stayed in Jamaica?
There's a difference.
What's the difference? Because I was just about to say, what's the difference?
I'll tell you what the difference is.
Again, because you asked me a personal question.
I'm going to ask you. I'm going to explain to you the difference. The difference is
So first, before you explain the difference, you're saying that you have heard of that.
I have.
Okay, perfect.
And you asked me a personal question. So you asked me and I answered it.
Yes.
And so I'm telling you, if I know that my country is a terrible country and I have the opportunity to leave my children here
while you're getting deported back,
their family, because you have to realize people that are immigrants, they get to know each other. There's family, community, and I have an opportunity for them to stay. I'm getting the hell out. People do it all the time. People literally come to this country for a better life and get money and send back, or vice versa. You may say you'll stay and send your children. I've had people that have done both. So,
okay. Well, let me answer the question that was being asked of me. Yes, my mother. Actually, I have older brothers. You know, God bless them. They passed on. But when my mother was leaving Jamaica, I was a baby. My mother brought me, my sister, and left 2 of my brothers in Jamaica. The difference is my mother came to America. She worked cleaning hotels, cleaning rooms, washing people's clothes, and worked up enough money to be able to send for her 2 sons and bring them to America to get them a better life. The difference is that these people are being deported back to their country without the opportunity of coming back to America and leaving their children over here, not knowing if they'll ever see them again. My mother knew she would see her 2 boys because she's working to get enough money to bring them up to America to have the American dream, versus the opposite, where again, these people are being sent back to the country with the chances of not being able to come back legally and leaving their children here. That's the difference.
Americans.
So let me ask you a question, Chris. So your mother, let me just ask him a quick question. So your mother, who did that, right? Or yes. Whoever you were giving the example of, right?
My mother.
Your mother comes over. She works hard. She brings her 2 boys over here to give, obviously, and she did that to give her 2 boys a better life. Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So think about it. Do you think if it was the reverse and your mother knew that the better life was in America, even if she couldn't be here, do you think she would have taken you and your brother back to Jamaica and raised you in an environment that she knew was detrimental to you and your growth and your life?
But that's okay. Let me answer the question. That's where I say I'm not a woman, but that's why I say the maternal instinct. I know women who will say, "No, I'm not leaving my child. I don't care if I'm going to sleep in the."
Chris, I gotta stop you because you just had the audacity to say you can't speak from that perspective about a woman, but you can speak from the perspective of a woman who leaves her child here. That don't make no sense, bro.
Huh?
Because you're able to say that's crazy that a woman.
I didn't say leave her child here. I said left her child in Jamaica and brought her child here.
No, but the reverse of that, where we're trying to say, because we all believe, meaning my co-host and me, that it's all the same thing. You're the one who's saying it's different.
No, it is different. Because again, think about it.
You said it's different, Chris.
No, it's obviously different.
Why is it so different? Why is it so different?
Think about this. Let's think about this for 1 second. Again, if you are an illegal alien and you are being deported without the opportunity to ever come back to the United States again, then the chances of you seeing your child, unless your child comes to the country where you are,
Chris, do you not know? Chris, do you not know there are plenty of people, and my girlfriend is one of them. She did not see her mother until she left when she was 11. She did not see her mother until she was 30 years old.
How did she see her mom?
That happens.
How did she see her mother?
My girlfriend just went to the Philippines.
That's the point. That's the point I just made. Unless they go
why
back.
Are you assuming? Chris, I just don't understand why in your example are you weighing on the assumption that they'll never see their child again when
right.
but you know the child can go back and visit.
Right.
And then two, you also know that the laws could potentially loosen or change so that down the road, then at least that parent can come and visit. I get that parent may never be able to come here and be a citizen, but that doesn't mean they can't come to the country and visit. And the whole point, the whole premise of this, the whole basis, fundamentally, and the foundation is where is the better life and opportunity for the child.
The better life.
So yes, the mother might leave the child.
Yeah,
and I do believe, Chris, and actually, ultimately, what I think we're saying is we don't agree with you. We think you're actually wrong when you say that they're not doing that, and that's why it's not happening. We don't agree with that because we think it is happening. Because again, to Diva's point, there's family members, there's other people here that can care for that child, and different things like that. So in that circumstance,
can I give one last example before?
Yeah, because we're about to wrap this up anyway. So yeah, so make this kind of your final thought, and then Lindsay can give his.
Okay, let me give you one final example. All right, so if you have a child, not you have a child, but when the family court system, majority of the time, who gets the child, the mother or the father?
The mother.
Okay, and why is it the mother gets the child? Normally, the father could be making great money, can take care of the child with no issues. The mother could be barely making it
because the system is biased towards women in that situation.
Agree.
That's a fact.
Where the laws are written, we talk about it all the time.
But the
Chris would agree with it too. He would agree with it too.
Yeah, but the system is biased. But not just that. Not just the system is biased.
But that's the main reason.
Okay, that could be the main reason, but not just that. But normally, a mother will fight for her kids to come with her. The mother will fight like, no, I'm not leaving my boyfriend or my baby daddy or my ex-husband with my son or my daughter. My daughter or my son is coming with me. So the majority of the time, the mother will take the children. The father will get visitation. And you know why that happens? Not just because that's the way the courts are moved, but more so because of the motherly instinct of defense. You ever hear the mama bear? The mother bear will fight to death for her child. She will fight to death. Because they say that
the child doesn't die, right? She does that to protect the child.
The reason why, because the male bear will want to have sex with the female, and he will.
So if the ultimate protection for the child is to leave the child in America, you tell me Mama Bear ain't gonna do it?
Exactly,
no.
I'm doing it.
What I'm saying, no, you guys are looking from a different perspective. What I'm saying is the mother wants her child with her. That's why I gave you the example of the family court thing. The mother's like, I'm not leaving my child. I don't care how good the father is. He can be father of the year. I want my child with me. If I'm gonna struggle, let me struggle with my child.
Are you struggling to make your point? Because I mean, you asked me the question.
I made my point.
All right. So is that your final? Is that your final?
Did that?
Is that your final? That's your
checkmate.
Final? Okay, perfect. That's it. That's your final. Anything else?
He said checkmate. That's his final.
All right, Lindsay, go ahead.
They got this checkmate thing that they make.
Well, I would say that I don't know if it's. I think it's kind of both. I think it's almost like putting words in somebody's mouth. A particular person's situation has a lot of factors. There's a lot of things to take into consideration why they would bring their family with them or why they wouldn't. Let's just say that there was 5,000 different families. Some probably didn't, and some probably did. And they probably gave them the option. You, a particular individual, did a criminal act so egregious that we're deporting you. Now we're going to give you the option where you could bring your family with you or keep them. And a particular individual might say, you know what? I'm going to forfeit my relationship with my children, and I'm going to allow them to stay in this country because this is the country of opportunity. They'll be able to have a better life. I'm going to forfeit the love that I would like to have with them. Or another person might say, you know what? They're too young. They're too little. There's no one here to take care of them. There's not an option. I have to take them with me.
Right.
So whether they do or they don't, both probably exist. Let's just say it's 50%. So it's not all or none. It's both and. Both scenarios both exist individually. There's people who have maternal instincts, and some people defy their own maternal instinct to do the opposite for the greater good. So I think I could see both possibilities. I think it's an unfortunate situation that families got to be broken up. At the end of the day, everybody has to be responsible for their own actions, for their own decisions. If you go just say you're a U.S. citizen, you committed a criminal act. Yeah, you have a family, but guess what? You're going to jail. You're going to prison. You're going to be separated from your family because of the action you did. It's not my fault. It's not the system's fault. It's your fault. You didn't have to do that action. You did it. So now you're being deported. And now we want to have due process for people who crossed the border, came here illegally, did a criminal act so egregious they got deported, and now we want a fair trial for them? I don't think so. I think they should go.
Okay. What say you, Diva?
I mean, I spoke my piece with it, and Lindsay is actually correct. I just answered the question according to what Chris asked me as if it was me. And again, I do have, like I said, people who have done both, vice versa, people who were here and people were over in a foreign country. But to close out, it's just a lot to unpack. It's just most unfortunate that I believe in my heart of hearts that when I have conversations, as this conversation here on the panel as well, if you ask me 3 things why I hate something, I can tell you right now. I can pop it down 333. I think with you guys and with other of my fellow people that I speak with, they have a hard time. Everybody's the top of the list is they want to say the border. Everyone says the border and there's nothing else behind it. And no one else can say anything else as to what they disagree with. It's always the border is the biggest thing, but like what else? You said that there were other things that you don't like, but no one could come back and say boom, boom, and boom. And it was just as simple as listing 3 things. And then my other thing to close it out is that every time that there is a question that's specifically about this administration, you don't have to go back and talk about previous administrations. We already know because the past has already presented itself. So we already know what the past administrations have done, and they've sucked. So it is what it is. But we're specifically, when we're talking about this administration and what he has done and the policies that he has put in place that suck. And there's so many other things just besides Border Patrol. Let's keep it real. And also and I really have to say this because I get tired of people saying this, please look this up. Eggs last year versus this year is not the same. I get so tired of people talking about this price of eggs. I bake all the time and eggs are higher now. It is. And it's ridiculous that we always have to keep talking about eggs. Is there not anything else that we eat? Quit talking about eggs. I'm sick of eggs. It's like the mindset of this cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs thing that Trump says. He was so excited to let us know, hey, eggs are down. You can have a great Easter. What? But that goes back to what Mr. Lindsay said about some of the stupidity things that comes out of his mouth, because that was stupid. So that's pretty much what I have to say.
Well,
everything.
I mean,
eggs are down.
I personally, I when we spoke in production meeting, I was like, listen, it's been 6 months. I wanted to bring these 2 gentlemen on so we can talk about, what's going on, because they had in the beginning this rah-rah about how they feel about him, what he's doing. So I wanted to get educated because honestly, I wanted to, and I'm being sincere when I said this, like, I really want you guys to help me see what I'm not seeing, because you guys obviously have seen something. But it failed epically for you guys to share things that will open up other people's eyes about what is it about this administration that you can pinpoint and said that it's moving this country forward. I mean, you guys talk about the border. That's a low-hanging fruit.
Hold up. Did you say it failed? Did you say it failed epically? Is that what you
absolutely said? Yes, I said that. And the border, to talk about the border, it's a low-hanging fruit. The intention of one administration is different from the other. Obviously, any administration could have shut that border down at any time, but they had different fundamental ideas and intake, whatever their plan was. I was never for that. I think it was ridiculous. So that's a low-hanging fruit. The other things they, mention is, the tariff. The tariffs fail. None of them. We talked about tariff this and tariff that. Obviously, we see what happened when he tried to impose tariffs. What happened? He ended up reversing it. We all see that happen time and time again. And then it's not like he bullying people. He has to come to agreement that both sides win. But we want to make it seems because he shout tariff, he's winning the war. He's winning the tariff war. No, he lost. Every time he did it, we know he have to reverse it. That is evident. I don't know where you guys were watching, but I guess what happened is that a lot of things I'm here coming out of your mouth, and this is saying in a very respectable manner. What I'm here coming out your mouth is the fact that what you hear, he repeats on TV. Eggs are down. You have no evidence. We going ahead and deport criminals. You have no numbers on the criminals. We finding fraud. You have nothing on the fraud and waste. We know it's there, but nobody's showing it because it's going to highlight where some of them are getting part of that fraud and waste. It's not there, right? Criminals are not the only thing that being deported and so forth, right? He can't end the war that he promised he can end. Nobody respect that fact. That the fact that you're gonna call this person and say you needed to stop this and that. No, obviously not. You put a ban on countries that has none, that you can't get no interest or you can't bully them, right? You have a relationship. You stop immigrants. You put in immigrants out, but you bring in other people in based on what you feel like you want to do. Right? You're talking about criminals, but yet still you pardoning them and you releasing them. Those are the things that I was trying to let you guys bring me in, talk to me about, help me understand. That didn't happen. I mean, you guys, no matter what, I mean, we're going to have a conversation again. And I still respect you guys because it doesn't matter who you guys believe and vote for. I just want you guys to help me understand. What is it that you guys see that I'm not seeing? I could be missing something. I did not get that from you guys tonight, right? And I get it. I get it. Maybe one day, like Chris said, maybe one day I'll get it. Who knows? But to me, this administration haven't done anything that points that this country is moving forward. This country is not no way better than it was before. I don't know how you can tell me it is better when we having some very, very authoritarian moves to make his point. He has to bully stuff. He has to violate the Constitution to get things done. Sending troops when the governor said no. You need the governor to tell you to bring the troops in. You got to get approval on that. That's why we got the checks and balance that we were talking about. How are we moving this country forward? Stop with the nonsense. All I want is that at the end of the day, America should be for the people and not for a person. That's it. That's all I'm looking for. And I digress.
Let me say something.
No. You gave your final thought, bro. We wrapping the show up, man, because we had like 2 hours. I'm gonna get my final thought, and then we're gonna close this up. That's why I asked you twice. I asked you to make it clear if that was your final thought. But again, I think we can all agree that politics are tricky, and I think for me, what's really unfortunate is A, that we have a two-party system in America, but B, that when you think about the Republican Party, and I think there are very intelligent people who are within that party. But when you think about the simple fact that the Republican Party, for whatever reason, felt as though this was the individual that they should put forward. Because I understand why many people who vote for Trump consider themselves conservatives. I understand some of their single policy issues and, whether it's, taxes or whether it's immigration, whether it's abortion, all these things, I totally understand. But I look at it and I say a lot of these things are broad topics that when you think administration to administration, how vastly can it change your life? So an example of that would be if when Joe Biden was president and he allowed abortion to be legal, I say to myself, for that particular single issue, the fact that people were getting abortions did that impact my life in a negative way that people had the option to choose? Right? Yes, maybe I don't morally agree with it, but did it really impact my life? Now, when you have a person who has narcissistic qualities, who has authoritarian qualities, who attempts to create a system that he controls where everyone within that system aligns with his thinking. And then we basically have sort of, for lack of a better way for me to put it, like a unilateral way in America that really benefits one primary group. I think that's what people don't understand is dangerous. When you have a situation where someone is blatantly showing you, hey, if this group decides to disagree with what I'm saying, I'm going to use this method of force, meaning the military. But if another group over there does the same act, I am not. I think what that does is, especially if you find yourself in the minority, and interestingly enough, everyone who is currently on this show is a minority or part of a minority group. I think what you can eventually see is those same policies that you were willing to accept because of the single policy that you really, really loved was going to go through. When it begins to impact you, it just becomes different, especially when you can admit that certain policies can impact your family members or people you know in a negative way, but yet and still you're willing to tolerate it when, again, this is about a person's character, not about their level of expertise, not about where they know something will truly benefit the country and they fully understand that thing versus, what we're seeing where somebody, in my opinion, could just be bought by the latest group that comes around. So in the first term, it was white supremacists. In the second term, it's the billionaires. I get it. Fine. But that's where I think it's dangerous. And that's where I think, this conversation today, I think as a show and a panel that we were trying to demonstrate that concerned us the most, because in our opinion, there's blindness to it. And I think it's dangerous. And ultimately, I think people who think Trump is okay, I think down the road, they're going to have to one day admit, wow, I made a huge mistake. And look how this now has impacted my life. When if I would have just let that one thing go that was single, my life wouldn't be in the place that it is, or someone I know's life wouldn't be there either. Especially, people who, in my opinion, are not naturally born in America. I think you're in danger. But that's fine if you don't. So, I say all that to say, hey, look, this is the argument where two or more views may collide, and clearly views tonight collided. That's okay. We appreciate our guests. So Chris and Lindsay, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys most because you always stand 10 toes down. I always will respect that. Even if I don't agree with you, I will always respect that you stand on what you believe. And that's that. And I'm fine with that because that's what America is about. And that's what makes this country great. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your boy, your homie, your man, Mark Fresh.
I'm your boy. All night, all day. Same J.
And I am your girl, the woman of the hour, Dirty Diva.